In 1240, King Raimond pursued his war for Normandy, pressuring the boy king Randolph I for his claims. After a series of sieges in Mortagne, Evreux, and Rouen, Randolph chose to surrender Mortagne and Evreux on the 1st of April 1241. That war concluded, Raimond warred upon the breakaway county of Rennes, subjugating the boy Earl Fulk rather handily by August 1241. King Raimond, desirous of seeing members of his dynasty with landed title, granted Mortagne to Raimond Berenguer and Evreux to Giordano de Poitou in November 1241. In an effort to better organize the war-fighting capacity of the Kingdom of Aquitaine, and also for the increase of the prestige of the de Poitou dynasty, Raimond created the duchies of Benevento, Calabria, Toulouse, Jerusalem, Apulia, and Bourbon in December of 1241 and created 6 new dukes. Feeling that Ermengarde Otakaran might soon grow too old to reliably provide children to Prince Raimond, King Raimond permitted his son to marry at long last, if only to prevent bastards from populating the royal castle. That same year, Raimond imprisoned Charles, Duke of Navarre and Gascogne, for attempting to fabricate a claim on the Kingdom of Aquitaine. In 1244, the nobles of Aquitaine took matters into their own hands and conspired to see Gascogne granted to a new ruler, one with less ambition than the de Béarn dynasty had become infamous for. Meanwhile, the always busy Chancellor of Aquitaine forged a claim upon the French county of Vendôme, for the control of which Aquitaine went to war with Orléans in January 1245, securing it after 5 months of pleasant enough siege, then granting it to a kinsman, Guitart de Poitou, in August 1245. Never one to be gentle in dealing with threats, in 1246 King Raimond killed Duke Arnaud I of Auvergne in order to prevent him from fabricating a claim on the Kingdom of Aquitaine. In 1247 an unexpected turn of events occurred. 5 years after marrying Raimond II, and still without child, Ermengarde Otakaran approached King Raimond with an arrangement that he found impossible to refuse, Queen Lise having been in Denmark for many years. 9 months later, Raimond II proudly proclaimed the birth of his son, Raimond III, to the court of Aquitaine, while Ermengarde and King Raimond smiled at each other behind his back. In 1248, Chancellor Gaston reported the conclusion of a majestic work of forgery, fraud, and traducement, opening the possibility of a massive increase in Aquitaine's holdings at the expense of France. Raimond went to war with King Ranald immediately for the Duchy of Orléans, burning castles and crushing the French host mercilessly over the next year, forcing Ranald to the humiliating surrender of 3 counties to Aquitaine in 1249. Ever whimsical in such matters, Raimond granted the county of Blois and the Duchy of Orléans to a 15-year-old boy he had never met, merely because he was a distant relative. Raimond celebrated his victories on the battlefield and the boudoir with a grand hunt, and, bold there as always, faced down a pack of wolves without regard to his personal safety, then slaked his lust upon his son's wife, making sure that he was busy on the honorable chore of providing meat for the year's Yuletide feast. As the echoes of raucous celebration died in Raimond's hall in the spring of 1250, and the steward washed the vomit from his shoes, fanciful tales of strangely accoutred savages from across the sea reached Raimond, along with the threat that they would return to visit a terrible reckoning upon the lords of Christendom. King Raimond, not easily swayed by such tales, gave no thought to them and turned his thoughts instead to how he would order his kingdom in the waning years of his life. All of these fine tales of strange people from over the horizon to the west, they make no sense. They make no sense. Nobody comes from that direction. There is no land out that way. Nobody sails beyond the horizon in that direction. Plus, all of these shifting tides of popular opinion and such, much too confusing. One thing I do know is that I like horses. Let us build some jousting lists, here and there. Training ground, jousting list. More jousting lists. Jousting lists for everywhere. Let us see the basic things there first. But jousting lists in Bordeaux and Sarlat and Tiberias, and also there. Whole lot of jousting going on. Sigh, Count Jacques, you just cannot have it. I cannot give it to you. It is mine. It is what keeps me in the kingdom of Jerusalem. No. It is too bad for you that you cannot have what you cannot get. I like that. What would I gain from this? Another 6% city tax? I'll hold on to that a bit. Noble customs. Feudal vassal opinion would be raised a bit more. Let's have that. Used to fabricate a claim on the Kingdom of Jerusalem, eh? Nobody interested in joining in, so I will leave it alone for now. Keep an eye on it, certainly. These factions are well under control. Very nice. Finally able to build more retinues now if I wish. And I will do so. Oh, yes, yes. This situation between King Raimond and Ermengarde is extremely intriguing. I'm very curious as to whether or not any children from Prince Raimond will be born at all. I shouldn't be surprised if he is written entirely out of the genetic equation here very soon. I will let that go. You've been working for the wrong purposes over there. You fabricate claims there. Well, let me see something. If that is the only reason that I can not declare war on you, then... Oh, well. I have no need for this. This is nonsense. Let me work my claims. I should hope for these kingdoms to become somewhat stronger. Another handsome boy. I think he looks like his grandfather. Well, since Raimond has developed a fascination with jousting, why not let's have a grand tournament? Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again, grand tournaments under the vanilla Crusader Kings 2 engine are pretty anticlimactic. These tournaments are really just once-in-a-lifetime events. And the larger tournaments in history, for example, the jousts at the Cloth of Gold held between France and England in 1520, were scenes of very great political importance. CK2 grand tournaments are local in scope, involving only the gentry of a kingdom, and except for the prestige awards involved for the winners, who seem to be determined purely by chance, and the occasional injury or death, or the frequent death, as we see during this event, there's really not a lot, to it. Now, okay, this is one of the rarest things I've ever seen. The king actually winning the tournament is a huge event. So now I've gained 500 prestige from this event, that's pretty substantial. That's definitely made it worth it to do it. What would be better would be the option to participate or simply watch, the option to invite nobles from other kingdoms, and some interesting random events that might occur during the tournament. Some friendships, some alliances, reputation shifts, that sort of thing. My dissatisfaction with the Grand Tournament really just comes from being such a huge geek that I've played it so often that I know how shallow it is. So, if anybody from Paradox is watching, just understand that from a storytelling standpoint, the Grand Tournament is really nothing more than a prestige machine, that doesn't really have a lot of effect in the game. So, there you go. Alright, let's take a look at what the Pope thinks of Raimond. Sergius IV has a pretty good opinion of Raimond, and with good reason. I guess he has no idea what Raimond's been doing with his son's wife, and really, it looks like a good idea that Raimond's taken up his campaign of making the beast with two backs with Ermengarde, because it's been almost a decade since they got married, and even though she was fertile and Prince Raimond was lustful, no issue of their marriage has come forth. Oh, jeez. Well, outstanding. That's just excellent. I guess Raimond is going to make damn sure that his line continues. Oh, well now. This looks serious, doesn't it? Thousands of exotic ships have arrived in Bretagne coast, spewing out numberless hordes of ululating warriors in weird armor sporting feathers and bone. These invaders from beyond the sunset worship hellish demon gods, sacrificing the populations of entire towns on altars erected on top of pyramid-shaped wooden edifices. They cut their victims' hearts out, carefully flay them, and let their devil priests wear the skins for many days. God have mercy. Well, I guess I'm going to have to do something about this. I do believe the Bretagne coast is my land. On second thought, let us not have this invasion of Europe by Aztecs, for it is a silly thing. Instead, since the 1.10 release of Crusader Kings 2 has right broken the Aztecs, let us consider it a blessing, and consider it a cruel hoax, some form of apocalyptic end times ranting propagated by heretics or religious fanatics or some such. I'll go a little farther. I'm not much of a fan of the Sunset Invasion DLC. I got it, because I'm loyal to the brand and the studio, but I was never really impressed with the notion of such an implausible and ahistorical event occurring. Now, I understand the logic of introducing a game-balancing threat to Western Europe like the Golden Horde, so as to make no place but the center of Europe safe. But in fact, even the most advanced civilizations in the Western Hemisphere were capable of nothing like a seaborne expedition from even the Yucatan to Florida, let alone across the Atlantic, a feat that Columbus only barely pulled off by luck. So, if you like the content, if you like the DLC, more power to you. It's just not going to be happening in this game. Instead, what we're going to get is perfectly plausible events like my elderly king having 3 children by his son's wife without his son knowing about it. And your point. Quite large army here. Count Odon, County of Foix, is Duke Jasper de Berry trying to assassinate. It's the County of Bourges, the Duchy of Berry. We'll grant him claim on the perpetrator's titles and see whether he can resolve that himself. Well, oh, Lollardy, yes, how wonderful. Could attempt to embargo him. Not interested in that. What I am interested in is where I stand. Nice. Genoa, very strong, very strong. Aquitaine is now stronger than the Byzantine Empire in terms of total military might. In terms of size, Aquitaine is still quite a bit smaller than the Byzantine Empire, and much smaller than the Holy Roman Empire in terms of counties held. Let me raise the boy. I can teach him right. well. Well spoken, sir. The churchmen like Raimond quite well. You study military tech, my son. Help us out. Let's see what this fellow is about. He's a stuttering diplomat. Interesting. Well, they are both very able men. However, he is not ambitious. I like this development. He usurped it right back. Or usurped it again. I don't know what's going on here. Quite the war going on here. Buy yourself out of prison. Don't be fat, young man, don't be fat. Nobody likes a big eater, one that eats too much. Crusade for Hungary. A crusade for Hungary. That is quite distant. It is inland. I will certainly join it. Oh, well, my son... Oh, may God have mercy on us. Not yet ready. I will give it all to you when I am done. And not before. Who is this man? New great house? Very well. Some interesting politics in Benevento there. Very good, Raimond. I must admit that I don't really want anything to do with this. Yes, it's about time. It's time to depart. It's just gotten very dangerous around here. The Mongols have their host well in one gigantic host, and the Crusaders are all spread out all over the place, and this is no good, and no good can come of it. Had enough of your nonsense. Had enough of your nonsense too. I won't have it anymore. And stay away from the Duchy of Galilee. Awful lot of people in that crusade. It's not going very well, though. It's very clear to me that the Mongols are very in control of their situation. And Raimond appears to be slipping a little in his old age. I wonder how much longer he's going to live. Wow, that is amazing amount of activity in Europe. The Mongols have touched upon the Holy Roman Empire, however, and I would think that they would certainly be heavily involved in all of that. But they are just not capable of getting all of their hosts in one mighty force that can contend with the Mongol horde. Cannot go on a grand hunt because, well, yes, we're still on Crusade. What? Oh, yes. Now, I get the Kinslayer for killing some distant cousin. Yeah, excellent. That's at least some good news. And that's good, but expensive. I don't know that I want to do it again. Let's go ahead and educate him as well. So, King Raimond the Apostle, educating the heir and the spare. Not wanting to leave that up to some random chance. Prince Raimond, now getting to be a little long in the tooth there. But his son is doing quite well, coming along nicely. That's good news. The other one, Rhino, a little young to know how he's going to come along yet. I should hope that King Raimond will live long enough to educate him properly. And young Mabila, the club-footed. And let's get her educated. Let's see. Somebody who has some decent traits and needs a little improvement to opinion. As old age creeps up on King Raimond the Apostle, his thoughts turn to his immortal soul and how he may be remembered by those yet to come. Ermengarde sings to him a song to ease his troubled mind.
Schlafest du Friedensire, man weg Ich was viel sanft